Your cybersecurity solution is here. Introducing Pentester's Advanced Cybersecurity Suite. Ready for peace of mind? Try it for free. No credit card required. Pentester.com.
I'm just glad I'm still alive. Basically, that's the bottom line. I should have been dead a long time ago over a lot of things. So I'm going to myself, what the hell does this guy want with me? So now we get in his car. It's just him, he's driving, and me in the front, and we're driving back to Ozone Park. And he looks at me and he says to me, so you and your brother are big-time pot dealers, huh? Robert still laughs about it. He goes, you're the only guy that could get money off John Gotti all beeped up. Somebody just asked me a question about John Gotti's brothers, that were mobbed up, with Jeannie and Richie and Vinny, and my relationships with them. So it's funny because, I had a relationship with John, the best, and I had a relationship with Jeannie. I always got along good with Jeannie. Jeannie was a funny bastard. And I got along with the kid brother Vinny. Me and Vinny are the same age. Richie I didn't like at all. I had big beefs with Richie. And Pete was Pete. Pete, I have not, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about the guy. He's dead, but he's he did wrong by me. He was not what he was not what he should have been. But anyway, so I got a quick story about my dark days anyway. So there was this guy, Johnny Garino. Unfortunately, he got killed down here in Florida. He got shot. He had a bad distributor. He got clipped. But back in the day, John was a captain at the time, everybody was looking to get made, and Johnny had a coke business. He had a coke business with some other kids that were with the Columbos, with Vigenza's son. They were crazy bastards. This guy, Louis, they had a coke business. And another guy, a friend of mine, Louis, took a couple of ounces of coke off them, and he didn't pay them. He blew it all up. He gave it away. He partied it away. I was fucking around then, so I even helped him get rid of some of it. You know what I mean? And he didn't pay them. And they actually grabbed him one night and threw him in the trunk of a car. And he thought he was going to get killed. And then one of the guys said, you can't kill him. He hangs out with Andy's sons and pop, 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 pop. So they let him go. And then they came to see me. Johnny Garino came to see me. And now the rules were you couldn't sell drugs. So when Johnny Garino came to see me, I told him, listen, Louis don't have no money. You should have came to us first before you did business with him, and we would have told you not to give him anything. You know what I mean? Shame on you. I said, and if you don't like it, go see John and we'll sit down. He goes, I can't do that. I go, well, then I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to get paid. Louis don't have no money. Where's he going to get it from? The sky? You should have, if you would have came to us like you were supposed to and say, listen, your friend wants X amount of things off me, which, is it okay? I would have told you no. So now he's upset. Now he knows he's not getting paid. There's really nothing he can do about it, right? Because he knows what he did wrong. A couple of weeks later, now he's hanging out at the Bergen Hut Fish Club. Like his family is with the Gottis. To this day, they're still all with the Gottis. And so we go to Peter Luger's one night. John, my father, Tony Lee, a whole bunch of us. We take about 3 carloads of guys, and we all go from Ozone Park to Peter Luger's. And John drove his car. We go to Peter Luger's, and we eat dinner. in Williamsburg. We come out of Peter Luger's, and out of the clear blue sky, John says to my father, I'm going to take your son back to the neighborhood with me. Now we're going back to Richie's club, because Richie had a club, a cafe around the corner from the Burger and Fish Club, and every once in a while I hung out in there. He had a fireplace in there and all that bullshit, and they used to go in there and drink and smoke cigars and all that. So John tells my father, I'm going to take your son back with me, because everybody's trying jockeying to get in his car, you know what I mean? Because everybody wanted to be up his ass. So I'm going to myself, what the hell does this guy want with me? So now we get in his car. It's just him, he's driving, and me in the front, and we're driving back to Ozone Park. And he looks at me, and he says to me, so you and your brother are big-time pot dealers, huh? Because my brother had a major marijuana business at the time, like major, like tremendously. Like my brother was way ahead of his time when it came to selling pot. Like today, he would have been a gazillionaire because it's all legal. He was like, he had a humongous pot business back then, crazy money he was making. And John looks at me and he goes, so you and your brother are big pot dealers, moving truckloads of marijuana all over the 5 boroughs and this and that, making tons of money. So I look at him. Now I know who whispered in his ear. I know this kid, Johnny Gambino, is the one that whispered in his ear, because of what happened with Louis, the beef over the coke. So I go, who told you that? Fucking John Gambino? He goes, don't worry about who told me that. He said, I got more informants than the FBI, you told me? I go, yeah, but I'm not one of them. He goes, yeah, I know. You're not one of them. I says, and anyway, he goes, and another thing, with that shit that you're all sticking up your nose. And I look at him, I go, listen. I said, whatever I do behind closed doors is my business, as long as I don't do it in front of you or whatever. And he just stares at me, right? Because I'm a little lit up I'm a little tuned up from being in Peter Luger's. I got to be honest, I had a few drinks at Peter Luger's, so I'm feeling my oats a little bit, you know what I mean? So I tell him, it's none of nobody's business what I do behind closed doors. So he goes, well, you're making tons of money. And I had actually in my pocket a nickel. I ran out of my house. I had no money. I had literally, I don't know why I only had a nickel, but I only had a nickel in my pocket. And I said to him, I'm making tons of money. I want my pocket. I said, all I got to my name is a nickel. I had a nickel in my hand. And he's looking at me, and he's driving, and he's looking at me, right? And I put the nickel back in my pocket. We get to Richie's club. We walk in Richie's club. My father's sitting at the bar. Because when you walked in Richie's club, there was a bar. And then to the right was the room with the fireplace and everything. He walks up to my father and he tells my father, you know your son's only walking around with a nickel in his pocket? And my father, the gangster that he is, my son will never be broke as long as I'm alive. You know what I mean? So now we have a couple of drinks. And I want to go. I want to get the hell out of there. So now my little Joe and Robert Pirelli, back then he was Robert Angle, they're in this bar called The Flight, 116 on 116th Street and 101st Avenue. So I called the bar and told them to come to Richie's Cafe and pick me up. So they come. I'm saying goodnight. I mean, I told this part of the story a while ago. They come, they pick me up. I say goodnight. And as I'm walking out the door, John calls me. He goes, oh, wait a second, don't leave. He comes up to me and he kisses me on the cheek and he sticks his hand in my pocket. I walk out, I get in the car, I go in my pocket. It was 5 $100 bills. He stuck 500 in my pocket, right? So I go back to the flight, whatever. 2 days later, I think 2 or 3 days later, I see his brother, Vinny. And Vinny says to me, let me ask you a question. Is it true you admitted to my brother that you stick coke up your nose once in a while? I go, yeah. He goes, are you crazy? How are you nuts admitting it to him? I go, Vinny, I mean, what am I going to lie to the guy's face? Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's doing it. I mean, come on. I mean, what am I going to lie to the guy? I mean, I told him the truth. I said, listen, yeah, once in a while I do, but I don't bring it around. I don't do it in front of you, you know? And he goes, you got to be crazy admitting that to him. You nuts? I would never admit it. I go, all right, well, I did. What do you want me to tell you? I said, and then, that was the end of it. He was shocked, Vinny, that I mentioned that to John. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think he appreciated it, because when things got really bad with that shit and I went into treatment and I got out, and I said this 1,000 times, the guy bought me a car. I got out of treatment on a Wednesday. That Saturday, he got me a car. So, I guess honesty is the best policy. I don't know, but that's my little story about that. And I'm just glad I'm still alive. Basically, that's the bottom line. I should have been dead a long time ago over a lot of things. Johnny Garino was the original guy that opened up Ragtime. When Ragtime in the 80s, Johnny Garino opened up a newspaper stand, a shack. It's still there, where they sell the lemon ice now. Okay, Johnny Garino opened up. Back then, they were opening up like they were selling newspapers, magazines, cigarettes, cigars, stuff like that. He opened up a newsstand right there named Ragtime, because they were selling, magazines. They used to call them rags, magazines and newspapers. And then they opened up Ragtime, the supermarket behind that. But he was the original. He started Ragtime. Then but he always wanted to be a gangster. He was a good friend of mine. He used to hang out with us, play cards with us. He got a little wild. He wanted to get straightened out. He wanted to get straightened out, and he did some crazy things. And then he went to Florida. He had a lot of money. He went to Florida. He opened up a beer distributor in Florida, and then he wound up having a beef with some guy, and the guy shot him, unfortunately, and the guy killed him. Yeah. But he was my age, we all grew up together. Listen, if he liked you, he helped you. Even guys like him, my old man, they had big hearts. They were good friends. They were good brothers. They were good sons. You know what I mean? They were good neighbors. They were just gangsters. You know what I mean? No, if he liked you, he'd give you the shirt off his back, just like my old man was the same exact way. If he liked you, you were good. The dealings I had with him, it was black and white. If you were right, you were right, and if you were wrong, you were wrong. That's it. There was no in between. If you were right, you were right, and if you were wrong, you were wrong. But he was very generous to people that he liked, people that went to him for help. But they all were. Fat Andy, Tony Lee. Tony Lee, when he passed away, he helped so many people, and he supported so many families besides my family, because my father was in jail. When he passed away, his mother, may she rest in peace, his mother, Jeannie, at the funeral parlor, she would sit in the first row and scream, "What are they going to do now? Who's going to take care of them now? Who's going to take care of everybody now? The streets are crying for you." She's told them, the streets are crying for you. Yeah. Imagine, the streets are crying for you. That's what she was telling him in the coffin, his mother, his poor mother. Yeah. That's how many people he helped. But people don't know that. All they do on TV is play them tapes. "I'll chop your head off," and blah, 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 blah. And, what do you think? You're a Dunsky? I'll chop your head off. I'll blow your house up. He talked like that. What are you gonna? That's who he was. That's how he talked sometimes. But but they were all generous guys. They were all Jeannie, all of them. Johnny Koenig, all of them. They were all generous guys. If they liked you. They didn't like you. You were in a lot of trouble. He just stuck his hand in my pocket, so I didn't realize what he gave me till I got in the car. And then, of course, when I saw him after that, I said, thanks, you didn't have to do that because don't worry about it.
You think he was sticking $500 in a lot of people's pockets?
No. No, I think he was sticking 500 people in people's pockets that he liked. I didn't ask him for money. I didn't ask him for money that night. Robert still talks to me about it. Robert still laughs about it. He goes, "You're the only guy that could get money off John Gotti all beeped up." I said, he gave it to me. I'll tell you who was in the car. It was Robert, Little Joe, and this other guy, Louis Jehovah, who's dead now. He was another really good guy, Louis Jehovah. The three of them came and got me.
Who was Little Joe?
Little Joe was Happy Mayone's great nephew, my wife's cousin, my father's godson, Joseph Dodona. He was a good guy. We all grew up together. His father, Lenny, baptized me, and my father baptized him. And then Tony Lee baptized my brother, and he confirmed me. Because when my father was a teenager, he made a pact with Lenny. That's why when I talk about Murders Incorporated raised my own man, this was the connection. When my grandfather died, Lenny was my father's best friend, and his uncle was Happy Mayone. His mother, Jenny, Lenny's mother, Jenny, went on the death visit when the day Happy got the electric chair. She visited him and waited for his body to bring it back to East New York to lay him out at Molinari's funeral parlor on Pacific Street. Jenny escorted the body back to New York from Sing Sing. And that's how my old man was tied up into Murder Incorporated. So Lenny, when my father was a kid, Lenny and my father made a pact that they would baptize each other's first son. So Lenny baptized me, and my father baptized Joseph. Joseph was born a year after me. And my father always told me that was the hardest decision he ever made in his life, who he should straighten out, Lenny or Tony. And the reason why I picked Tony was because Lenny had bad habits. Lenny was a bad gambler. He was bad with money. Great guy. My father loved him to death, but he had bad habits, Lenny, and my father knew he would get jammed up. And plus, Tony Lee was more suited anyway for it than Lenny. Yeah.
Tony Lee sounds like the perfect gangster.
Tony Lee was, Tony Lee was dangerous, very intelligent, sharp, did a lot of reading, he used to say he was the jack of all trades, master of none. Like any kind of business they went into, he learned the business. Like my old man just collected money. Like he whatever kind of business they went in, he knew it. Like they opened up the gold store, he became a jeweler. With the loop, and he was to get the loop and look at this, and like he became a jeweler. He used to work the scales, and you know what I mean. Like anything they did, he learned it. He was hands on. My old man, just give me my end. You know what I mean? My old man was completely different than him, but that's why they made a good team. Tony Lee had an option to get straightened out with the Genovese family or the Gambino family. Well, back then it wasn't the Gambino family. It was the Mangano family because Albert was still the boss. Albert Anastasia was still the boss. Tony Lee's uncle, Willie, was a wise guy, was a made guy of the Genovese family. Matter of fact, Willie was friends with Vito Genovese. Willie was very wealthy. Willie had a piece of Cuba. That's how much money Willie had. Willie was very, very wealthy. Willie, it was his father's brother. He was very wealthy. So Tony Lee had an opportunity to go with him or my old man, and he chose my old man. And when I got older, he used to break my balls. He used to go, "What a mistake I made. I should have went with my Uncle Willie." Breaking balls. But so he had an opportunity. He had an opportunity to get made with either family, but he chose my old man. They made a great team. It Whatever they got, they split right down the middle. If they got 10 cents, they got a nickel each till the day they died.
How old were they when they met?
They were kids in the park. They were, kids, young, 9, 10, they were kids. And Tony Lee worked in his father's luncheonette. Tony Lee's father always owned pool halls and luncheonettes. His father always owned, always had a business. Matter of fact, Happy Mayoni and Murder Inc. hung out in one of Tony Lee's father's pool halls. Because my father and Larry the Dasher, who was another member of Murder Inc., Larry and my father were shining shoes when they were kids. And they went up in the pool hall to shine shoes, and the Dasher was there. Larry's father, who was a member of Murder Incorporated, and he saw them with the shine boxes, and he threw the shine boxes out and told both of them, "Don't ever let me see you shining shoes again." Yeah, no, be a criminal, be a murderer like me. Don't shine shoes, don't go to work,